about air and how it influences our weather. So here I have a ping pong and a blow dryer. Well, let's see what happens. What do you think is happening?
It's floating.
What is causing it to float?
Air?
Yeah, air from the blow dryer, that's correct. So what is air? You want to tell me what air is?
It's a gas.
Yes, correct. Air is a mixture of gas particles. Air is a mixture of gas particles. Today we're going to do different demonstrations to try to answer our question of the day, which is, what is air and how does it affect our weather?
So now we've seen that air definitely can make things move. So I want to know if air actually has mass. So I have here a ruler, and I'm going to place it on the table, and I'm going to hit it. What do you think is going to happen, Luis, if I hit the ruler?
Is it going to hit Liz?
I'm going to hit Liz. Let's find out. See if I can have really good aim here. Well, not very good aim, but it did fly off the table. So let's see what happens if I put this newspaper over the ruler. What do you think is going to happen this time? Is it still going to fly off and hit Liz?
No.
Let's find out. Oh, it didn't even really fly at all. Why do you think that happened?
The newspaper stopped it.
The newspaper stopped it. How did the newspaper stop it? What does the newspaper have? Remember earlier in the semester? That's right. Newspaper has mass. In fact, actually, the mass of the newspaper is big and wide, and so all the air on top is pressing down on the newspaper, preventing the ruler from flying off. So now we know that air has mass. So and today we're going to be in 3 different stations, just like we've done in the past, and we're going to rotate, just like in the past, clockwise. Clockwise. So this table and that table are going to be together, and this table and that table are going to be together, and those tables, everybody else is going to be together. So my partner is going to pass out the job cards and the worksheets while I go over the rules about how we're going to do the different stations. So the rules of the different stations are follow directions, be safe, and act like a scientist. So now we're going to talk about station 1. Okay?
Yeah.
Station 1. So station 1, you guys are going to take a cup and a straw, and I want you to blow into the straw in the cup and see what happens. What happened?
It bubbled.
It made bubbles. Why do you think it made bubbles? Because we're blowing into it. That's right. So we can see that the bubbles are moving the water. So just like when we did the ping pong ball, air can move other objects. In this case, it's moving the water. So now we're going to do another experiment to show that air, in fact, does have mass. I have here a stick with 2 balloons. And the balloons are all the same size. So I want you guys to try to see if you can balance the stick. I want to see if I can try to find a place. Oh, very good. So see, it's balancing nicely on my finger. What do you think is going to happen if I blew up one of the balloons?
It's going to tilt.
It's going to tilt. Let's find out. Okay, good. So what does this tell us about air, this experiment?
It has mass.
It has mass, that's right. This is station 2. Alright, so now we're going to look at the effects of temperature on air. So I have here another balloon, and I have an empty bottle. I have a bowl of hot water and a bowl of cold water. I'm going to put the balloon over the bottle. Try to put the balloon over the bottle. We're going to see what happens if I put the bottle in the hot water. What did you guys notice has happened to the balloon?
It's getting bigger.
It's getting bigger. Why do you think that is?
Air's
What's happened to the air
It's rising.
inside the bottle?
It's going into the balloon.
It's going into the balloon. Well, what is the air in the bottle getting colder, warmer, or staying the same?
Warmer.
Getting warmer, that's right. Warm air arises, so that is why we are seeing the balloon get blown up. What happens to the balloon when we put it in cold water?
Shrinking.
It's shrinking, that's right, it's even getting sucked into the balloon a little bit. So why do you think that is? What's happening to the air inside of the bottle and the balloon?
Colder.
It's getting colder, that's right. So this shows that warm air actually rises up and can fill up and take up more space than cold air, which tends to shrink things. Okay, this is station 3. So I have here a bottle of, it's empty. And I want to know what's going to happen if I put it in hot water versus cold water. So let's see what happens if I put it in hot water for a little bit of time, just to kind of, get it to warm up. And what did we say happened with when we put a bottle in hot water with the balloon? What did we notice?
The warm air rises.
The warm air rises. So remember we said warm air actually takes up more space. So we're warming up the air inside of the bottle by putting it inside this warm bath. So now we've left it in there long enough. Let's move it over to the cold water and see what happens to the bottle. What happens to the bottle?
Shrinking.
It's shrinking. That's right. It's actually contracting. It's actually contracting because the cold air takes up less space than hot air does. So now we're going to do the other part of station 3. And I have here 2 bottles. I'm going to fill this one up with warm water. I'm going to fill this one up with cold water. And I'm going to put a few drops of food dye in each one. So which color usually represents hot?
Red.
Red. So we're going to put the red food dye in the warm one. Just a couple drops. And what color usually represents cold?
Blue.
Blue. So we're going to put some blue food dye in the cold one. So now I'm going to take these 2 bottles of water, one that's warm and one that's cold, and we're going to put them in this ice bath and see what happens. What are you guys noticing is happening? What's happening to the 2 different colors? Where's the red food dye going and where's the blue food dye going?
The red's going to the top.
And where's the blue food dye going?
To the bottom.
To the bottom. That's right. This shows us that warm air rises. So does anybody ever notice in the winter how your feet get really, really cold, but your head's actually warm?
Yes.
This is because cold air sinks to the bottom, whereas warm air rises.
So what do we learn about air?
You learned about air.
About air? And what does air have?
It has mass.
Alright, so it does have mass, and we showed that during the newspaper experiment. And what other characteristics does air have?
It's made out of matter.
Correct. And what does it tend to do when you heat it?
It rises.
And what does it do to objects?
It
Like the
moves
bottom.
them.
Like the bottom. When we put it inside the hot bath, what happened to the bottom?
Oh, the balloon, it blew up.
And what happened to the bottom when we put it in the hot bath?
Nothing.
It expanded. Because air particles tend to move quicker and they tend to expand the objects because the mass it does get heavier. Now, air does increase its volume, but it does not increase its mass, right? How does air affect weather?
It's windy on a windy day. What makes wind?
Yes, because hot air tends to rise and the cold air tends to go down, so it does create clouds. So like in this picture, that cold air does go down and the hot air goes up. So what happens during a cold front?
It looks like that there's like a collision of warm and cold air.
Why do you think warmer goes up?
Because, I don't know, it just did. Like, that's what we saw in the experiment with the colors.
And why do you think cold air goes down?
Because it's heavier.
Right. So a front is a place where two different air masses meet, and the hot air tends to go up, and the cold air tends to go down. What other kind of things can air do with the, as we saw with the blow dryer?
New things.
Move things. What kind of things can move that we saw?
It moved water, it moved a ping pong ball.
Correct. So it did move a lot of things because air does have volume, so it takes up space.
So, who has ever seen a hot air balloon? Me. Who's ever ridden in one? No, me neither. I've never ridden one either. That's okay. But I'm going to tell you how a hot air balloon works. So, what do you guys think a hot air balloon has inside of it? What do you think is making it lift up into the air?
Hot air.
Hot air, that's right, there's hot air. So, is it just because the air is hot, or is it something else, you think? I'll tell you, it's actually because, well, hot air, like we said, when we showed the demonstration with the balloon over the bottle, hot air actually takes up more space. So it actually becomes less dense. So that's what causes it to rise. So in a hot air balloon, they heat up the air inside of the balloon, which causes it to be less dense than the air around it, and it causes it to rise. It's the same thing that happens, who's ever floated on their back in a pool? I love to float my back in the pool, because I get tired really easily. So that's the same thing. Your body, when you have air in your lungs, it keeps you afloat, because the air in your lungs is less dense than the water.
So now we're going to show off what you guys have learned today, which show off what you know. So for number one, Erin, what did you get?
C.
So it's which of the following is not a characteristic of air? A, air has mass. B, hot air rises, cold air takes up more space than warmer. D, difference in the air temperatures cause weather. C is correct. Number two, if you heat up the air inside a container, the molecules inside A speed up and move closer together. B, slow down as they heat up. C, speed up and move further apart. Or D, all move upwards. Erin, what do you think?
C.
Yes, as you heat up, the air speeds up and they move further apart. So here we have a diagram of bad weather that happens on the front. What will happen to the warm air as the cold air moves? A, the warm air will rise above the cold air. B, the warm air will push the cold air out of the way. C, the warm air will move to the side but not rise or sink. Or D, the warm air will stay put. What do you guys think?
A.
The warm air will rise above the cold water, correct? Because as we learned today, the warm air rises above the cold air. So number four, Bobby took his balloon outside on a cold day and was very sad when it shriveled up. What likely caused his balloon to shrink? Balloon shrink. A, the balloon had a leak. B, the balloon froze and broke. C, the balloon was old. Or D, the cold air made the balloon get smaller. What do you
D.
think? Correct. The cold air made the balloon get smaller. Okay, thank you guys for paying attention today. We'll see you next time.